In today's video, I'm looking at the tune Stormy Monday, or to give it its full title, call it Stormy Monday brackets, but Tuesday is just as bad. And this one is a real blues classic. It's one of those tunes that you must know, I think, if you're remotely interested in blues guitar. Even if you're not that interested in blues guitar, I think it's a really interesting tune to look at. And I've said this before, I'm not a blues specialist, but it is a style that I do enjoy playing from time to time. And I find it to be a really good platform from which to look at many core guitar concepts. So things like harmony, tasteful rhythm playing, phrasing, dynamics, all of that good stuff. And this tune has got a really interesting history. It's been recorded or played by all of the blues greats, I think, and the way that people approach it tends to vary. I don't think there's one definitive way of playing this tune. You've got lots of options. So what I'm going to do is take a look at 3 or 4 of the most famous recordings of this tune and look at the similarities and differences between the approaches that you hear on those recordings. The main focus of this video is going to be on the harmony and on the rhythm guitar side of things, but I'm also going to discuss a little bit how you might improvise and solo over the Stormy Monday changes. So let's get started. I'm just going to play a little bit of the tune for you, and then I'll break down what's going on. So what is Stormy Monday exactly? And I'm going to start by just discussing a little bit about the history of the tune. I think its most simple, Stormy Monday, is a slow 12-bar blues, usually played in the key of G. And you usually play it using some quite kind of sophisticated sounding chords, so 9th chords, 13th chords, and there are various possible jazzy substitutions that you can throw in there as well. Now, if you just type Stormy Monday into Spotify or into YouTube, there are so many different recordings of this tune by all kinds of different people that it does get a little bit confusing, and it's hard to know exactly how to approach playing this tune when so many people play it in so many different ways. So I think the best place to start is probably with the original recording, and that was done by T-Bone Walker. He wrote the tune, and it came out in 1947, and there's actually a little bit of confusion over exactly when he wrote it, when he recorded it, and you can read a bit more about that on his Wikipedia page. But as far as I know, it came out in 1947. I think it was a bit of a hit the year after, in 1948. So the first thing I suggest you do is just take a listen to that original recording, and you can hear that on the, I think it's called the Complete Capitol and Black and White Sessions album. And even with T-Bone Walker, it's quite confusing because he's recorded it loads of different times in some slightly different ways. So I would start with that version, and then there's another version which is quite famous, which is on the album T-Bone Blues. That's fairly similar, but it's also worth checking out. Some slightly different things going on there, and there's even a kind of strange up-tempo version of it that I came across while I was researching this video, which is worth a listen as well. And another really significant version of this tune that you should check out was done in 1961 by Bobby Blue Bland. and it's a really great record, and you can hear the T-Bone influence in there. Obviously it's the same lyrics, but what happens in this version is you first start to hear these kind of substitute chord changes thrown in there, slightly more sophisticated harmony that a lot of people who've subsequently played the tune have used as well. And then 10 years later, 1971, the Allman Brothers recorded this tune on their live at the Fillmore album. I think it's another really great recording, and I suppose this was responsible for introducing the tune to more of a rock kind of an audience. And on this recording you can hear it's strongly based on the Bobby Bland version, but again the Allmans have put their own take on it. They've got some kind of interesting chords in there as well that you're not hearing on either the T-Bone or the Bobby Bland versions of the tune. So let's get started. I'm going to begin at the beginning with that original T-Bone recording, so let's take a look at what's going on there. I'm just going to play a 12-bar chorus in the T-Bone kind of rhythm style, so that will go something like this. So as I said, this is a slow 12-bar blues, key of G. One of the most striking things about this straight away is the use of quite sophisticated jazzy sounding chords, and it's ninth chords that we're dealing with here. So this kind of sound. And I started off with a little introduction which is similar to what you hear on the T-Bone recording, just using this ninth chord voicing here. So starting off with this, so it's a D sharp 9, we've got frets 6, 5 and then 6 on the top 3 string, just flattening down my third finger over those 3 notes and then going down to a D9. So, and then there's a little kind of arpeggio phrase. I think on the recording this is not played on the guitar, it's played on the piano, but you can play it on the guitar if you like. And then the chords again. And then we hit the 1 chord. That's the start of the 12-bar form. And the shape that T-Bone is using is this chord here. It's a great sounding chord. It's a really useful blues chord to know. It's another ninth chord voicing. So this is a G9. It's the 1 chord in the 12-bar. And I've got fret 2 on the A string, then fret 3, 2, and then 3. So that's the sound. Notice that we're not playing a root note here. This is a G9, but we're not playing this G root note here. You could play that if you wanted to, just maybe wrap your thumb around over the top. But you don't really need to do that. This rootless voicing is a very strong sound. The root is very strongly implied, and generally speaking you're going to be playing this tune with other musicians, with the bass player, or even just along to a backing track where the bass is going to be filling in that low root note. So this rootless voicing is a really useful one. So we're starting with that as our 1 chord, and then for the 5 chord we're going to this 5th string root 9th chord voicing. So this is a C9. And notice how smooth this is, both physically on the guitar. It's quite a comfortable change to make, and the sound is smooth as well. It involves what's called good voice leading, so that individual notes or voices within these chords just connect smoothly to the next chord. There's not much movement going on there, and I think there's 1 note which stays constant between the 2 chords. So we're going from a G9, which is the 1 chord, to the C9, which is the 4 chord. It should be said that this blues is a quick change blues. So we've got 1 bar on the 1 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're changing quickly. So in the 2nd bar to the 4 chord, 3, and then we're changing back again to the 1 chord. That's the basic harmony there. Notice also how T-Bone is leading into the 4 chord from 1 fret away. And he tends to do it from 1 fret below or 1 fret above, and just uses that as an approach chord. So we want to be hitting that 4 chord on beat 1, but on the beat before we're just approaching that chord. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, or 3, 4, and then we're back to the 1 chord. And this is where we've got this kind of signature T-bone move, which goes like this. So really just moving that 1 chord G9 voicing around. So starting here, then going down, then up, and then back down, and then again. So it's all centered on that G9, on that 1 chord sound, but we've got the chord 1 fret below and 1 fret above, just to create a sense of movement. And then we've got this nice move as well, so playing that G9 and then just hitting this high G on top. So the way I'm doing that is I'm just moving my little finger over onto that top string. Then we hit the 4 chord again, so maybe just approaching that from half step above or below as before. 2, 3, 4, another bar, 2, then back to the 1 chord and the same move. Then we're hitting the 5 chord, and what T-Bone seems to be doing is playing this here. So that the 5 chord for a blues in G is going to be D or D7. You've got this kind of C shape D7 grip, which is nice. That would work, but I'm hearing T-Bone play the 5th in the bass, so you can kind of move your 3rd finger over to the low E string, and you've got this kind of sound, which is really nice. I'm actually just muting the 5th string here, and again you can approach that from 1 fret above. So I think that's the 5 chord that he's using, so that's a nice one to try. And then we're back to the 1 again. And last 2 bars in the 12-bar form, what are known as the turnaround. So you've got various different options here, and you can leave it quite sparse. You can really just kind of stay on the 1 chord, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then just hit the 5 chord at the end. Or perhaps you could go 1 to 4, 1 to 5 at the end, something like that. So. And then that 5 chord there, that sets up the form to go back round to the top again. So lots of great stuff there, and I think the key things here are those great sounding 9th chord voicings, the use of approach chords, and those chord moves that T-Bone throws in just to add that sense of movement. We've also got that lovely 5 chord with the 5th in the bass. And notice how sparse it is when you listen to that recording. With a slow blues, you can just leave a lot of space, just throw in the occasional chord hits or let some of these chords ring. And then you've got space for the vocals, you've got some space for lead guitar fills as well. So don't feel that you need to be super busy in this kind of style. So with the Bobby Bland version of this tune, things have evolved, and we've got some new chord changes in there, some chord substitutions, I suppose you'd call them. So let me play through 12 bars, and I'll try and do it in the Bobby Bland kind of style. I actually can't remember the name of the guitar player who played on the recording. I will look that up and put his name on screen, but I'll try and play something in that kind of style. I should say that this recording is actually in the key of A flat, and just to keep things simple today I'm playing everything in the key of G, but if you did want to play along to the actual Bobby Bland recording, then you can just move everything I'm talking about up 1 fret and you'll be in the right key. But I think generally speaking most people are going to be playing Stormy Monday in the key of G. That's how I've always played this tune. So we've got a slightly different introduction with this one. So I'm starting on the 1 chord, so that same 9th chord voicing, going up 1 fret and then back again, and then we've got this great augmented chord which is used for a 5 chord. So rather than just a regular D7, we've got this. So starting on the D at fret 5, then we've got 4, 3 and 3. So it's got that sharp 5 in there, it gives you an augmented sound. It's a great kind of substitution or alternate chord voicing that you can use for a 5 chord. And then we start the 12 bar proper. It starts in a similar kind of way to T-Bone, using these 9th chord voicings. You've got these half step approaches once again. And this similar kind of move to the T-Bone move. The rhythm is slightly different here. And then this really nice move which takes us to the 4 chord. So starting with this G9, catch that high G, and then we've got this C sharp 9 and just stretching up with the little finger to make it a 13th chord, and that's taking us to the 4 chord. So it's this move, really nice way to get to the 4 chord. You can use that in just about any kind of slow blues. It's just a really kind of a nice way of just increasing tension. You've got that kind of altered sound. I suppose this, it's kind of a flat 5 substitution for that 1 chord almost, and that gives you that kind of tension which is then released when you go to the 4 chord. And another thing that you can hear on the Bobby Bland version are these kind of sliding moves which are very, very common in a slow blues. So that kind of move. So I did it on the 4 chord here. So I've got these little 3-note shapes. So 10, 9 and 10, starting on the D string and just moving that down 2 frets, and you can slide into and between these shapes. And that's played against the 4 chord. And what it's giving you really, it's kind of a C6 sound going down to a C9 sound. So both those shapes give you that 4 chord sound. You can throw in an extra note on the top string as well if you wanted to. And then that same move you can just take it down here to work over the 1 chord. You could even play that over the 5 chord as well. I don't think that happens on the Bobby Bland recording. It might do, but I didn't do it just then, but it's certainly a possibility. You can just take that same move throughout the 12 bar form. And then we've got something new which I think you first hear on this Bobby Bland recording, and it's very much become a signature part of how a lot of people play Stormy Monday, and it's this move up from the 1 chord. So I'm going here from a G7, and then we've got A minor 7. I'm playing it like this with the root muting the A string, and then 5 on the D, G, B, 2 frets higher, B minor 7, B flat minor 7. It's a really nice move. And then we're hitting the 5 chord, and once again we've got these approach chords. So we're targeting this D7. This time we're coming from 2 frets below and just moving up 1 fret at a time until we hit the target chord. And then we've got another nice chord substitution in here. We're actually going up to a D sharp 7. It's kind of the sharp 5 chord. Again, approaching that from 2 frets below. Back to the 1. I just played a single note kind of turnaround lick. So it's interesting to hear how things develop in this recording. We've definitely still got some of the T-Bone DNA in there. A lot of those ninth chord moves, this move is still in there. But we've got lots of nice new stuff as well. So kind of more sophisticated things. We've got that classic run up, walk up from the one chord. We've got the use of that augmented chord in there as well. So lots of ideas there to play around with. So the Allman Brothers live at Fillmore East, it's another essential version of this tune, and again the song has evolved a little bit, and there's some similar elements to the previous two that I've discussed, but there's some new things in there as well. So let me play through 12 bars of rhythm guitar in that kind of style. And there are two guitar players on that recording, so I'm just going to try and cram a few of those ideas in there and approximate a little bit what's going on. So the introduction there is similar to the Bobby Bland version, just using those ninth chords, going up one fret and back again. We've got that augmented chord in there again. We've got lots of this blues sliding idea, so that kind of idea on the one chord. And you can either use three note shapes here, or you can just use the outside notes of those shapes, the kind of sixth shapes, which is what I'm hearing a lot of the time on this recording. So that move works for the one chord. Then for the four chord, just move higher up the neck, or you could stay in position and do that here, and then back again. And I'm just using those three note shapes here just to embellish the one chord sound, just by going up one fret and back again. This is similar to that T-Bone move. And got that move going to the four chord that we've had before. So the four chord, all that sliding stuff. Then we've got that ascending part like in the Bobby Bland version. So G7, A minor 7, B minor 7. I'm just throwing in some embellishments here just with my little finger. And here is where there are some differences to the other recordings. I'm hearing this chord on the Allman Brothers, so, which is a kind of substitution for the 5 chord. It's really a D7 sus4, a D11 kind of a sound. So I'm just barring all the way across 5 strings here, and then I'm hearing this, another really nice kind of sound. This is, I suppose it's kind of like a D sharp 6 kind of sound. I mean, you could see this as a C minor kind of a sound with the flat third, with that E flat in the bass, but you know, C minor and this kind of E flat 6, basically the same notes. So, and then throw this B flat on top here, and then back to the one chord, and there's some kind of turnaround. So on the Allman's recording, it's hinting at that kind of 1-4-1-5 sound. So using those 6 shapes to outline the basic chords. ending with that augmented chord. I'm going to finish by briefly talking about soloing over this tune, and I think the best advice I can give you is not to overthink this one. The most important thing with a slow blues is just to play with feeling and expression, leave some space, just try and play simple ideas and then develop them, and play with a bit of dynamic as well. In my little playthrough at the start of this video, I was trying to dig in on some phrases, and on other phrases I was trying to play very, very softly, and I think that always makes things more interesting to listen to on a slow blues rather than just playing everything at exactly the same kind of level of intensity. As far as licks and note choice goes, I mean, you can just play all of this just with G minor pentatonic, and that's what T-Bone does a lot of the time. It's not about having loads of fancy scales and arpeggios and all the rest of it. You can just take some very simple materials like the minor pentatonic scale. It's more about what you do with it. So really good phrasing, just good development of ideas, and you can do so much just with that simple pattern 1, box 1, G minor pentatonic. You can of course get a bit more sophisticated than that if you wanted to, and one thing that T-Bone seems to do is just add in some extra notes to that minor pentatonic scale. So you can take G minor pentatonic as your starting point, but then you might like to add in, for example, this B note here. This is the major third, so particularly over the 1 chord, adding in that B is usually a good choice. T-Bone throws in this note quite a lot too, which is an A note, and that's the 9th or the 2nd, and one of his signature phrases is so most of that is G minor pentatonic, but hitting that A note there. So licks like that, it'd be good to, you don't have to learn that note for note, but just those kind of ideas are worth having in your vocabulary. Another lick that I played during my solo, and this was quoting from the original T-Bone recording, was this one. A real classic lick, a really nice one to play. Here I'm playing it over the 4 chord. I'm thinking about this lick as coming out of the chord shape, really. It's giving you that C7 sound. And then we just repeat that. And it's one of those licks you can just move around. I can move it down to the 1 chord. You could take it up to the 5 chord. T-Bone doesn't do this, but it would certainly work. Then you've got those extra chord changes in there as well, that sort of jazzy stuff, those substitutions. And with that stuff, you've got a choice. You can outline those changes and pay attention to them like a jazz player would, and that will give you a certain kind of sound. Or you can just ignore all of that stuff and just play the blues, play some minor pentatonic stuff, which is what a lot of the great blues players do when they play this tune. But if you wanted to, you could outline this stuff. You could just play triads there. That kind of thing might work. Or so that kind of thing might work. That's something you can explore. It will give you a particular kind of sound. It will sort of take you more in the direction of jazz or that kind of fusiony kind of sound. If that is your kind of thing, then go ahead and explore doing a bit of that. Before I forget, just going to give you a run through of the gear that I'm using today. Guitar is of course a Les Paul. This is a 59 reissue Les Paul. I'm using the rhythm pickup, the neck pickup today, going through Fender Princeton amp. I'm using 1 pedal, so in my little playthrough at the start of this video, started off with no effect at all, and then for my solo I just stomped on overdrive pedal. This is the J Rocket Archer. It's kind of a clone overdrive, so kind of nice, fairly natural sounding overdrive, adds a bit of sustain, a bit of mid-range to the sound. That's it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. There is plenty of other blues content available on this channel. If you just go to my channel homepage and do a search, you should find it. In particular, you might like to check out my other T-Bone Walker lessons. I know I've done one quite recently on the tune T-Bone Shuffle, which might be of some interest to you. If you would like tab to accompany this video, that's going to be up on my Patreon page. What I'm going to do is tab out my little introductory piece, and I'll also write out the T-Bone rhythm guitar ideas, the Bobby Bland stuff, and the Allman Brothers stuff as well. So that's going to be, as I say, up on my Patreon page. Pay what you like, get access to that tab and to many other tabs as well. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.